It was late April 1988, just a few days before the regular season would wrap up. The Chicago Bulls walked into Boston Garden with a 50-win season behind them, led by the league's scoring champion and one of the most electric players the game had ever seen. Michael Jordan was in his prime. Scottie Pippen was just starting to find his place beside him. Together, they were building something dangerous. But that night in Boston, they weren't just playing a team. They were stepping into the home of legends. The Celtics had been here before. Deep playoff runs, championships, battles that left scars. And at the heart of it all was Larry Bird. Quiet, calculated, ruthless. He didn't need to talk. He didn't need to flex. All he had to do was play. And when the lights came on and the ball tipped, something shifted. This wasn't just another regular season game. There was an edge to it. A feeling, and as the minutes rolled by, that feeling turned into something Jordan and Pippen weren't expecting. Because on that night, Larry Bird didn't just show up. He reminded them who the game still belonged to. The opening quarter wasted no time setting the tone. On Chicago's first real chance inside, Charles Oakley tried to muscle his way into a bucket, but Larry Bird came flying in from behind and swatted it clean. No foul, no hesitation, just sharp timing and a message that Boston wasn't giving anything easy. The block led to a jump ball, and just like that, the crowd was locked in. Michael Jordan, already active and engaged, got himself on the board with a smart putback after crashing the offensive glass. His instincts kicked in fast, and he made Boston pay for a missed box out. But Bird, as always, had an answer. Coming off of a pair of staggered screens, he caught the ball in rhythm and floated a soft one-legged runner that kissed the rim and dropped in. It looked smooth, controlled, and effortless. The Bulls kept pace early. Jordan faced heavy pressure with three defenders collapsing, but instead of forcing a shot, he found Sam Vincent waiting in the short corner. Vincent caught it clean and knocked down the mid-range jumper. It was a flash of Jordan's growing patience and vision. At the other end, Kevin McHale tried to get crafty with a step-through move in the paint, but Jordan wasn't having it. He rotated from the weak side and sent the shot flying back to the other team. It was one of those defensive plays that made even Celtics fans nod in respect. But before we go any further, today's video is brought to you by OddsJam. Look at these results. People are making thousands every month betting on sports completely risk-free. The secret, they're using OddsJam. OddsJam isn't just another betting app, it's turning the entire system in your favor. Here's how. OddsJam uses a strategy called arbitrage, finding odds discrepancies across the sportsbooks. You bet both sides, and no matter the outcome, you will profit. Here's an example. If you bet $500 on Boise State to win on FanDuel, and $335 on their opponent San Francisco on DraftKings, you're guaranteed to make $50 win or lose. It's that simple. With the OddsJam mobile app, you'll get real-time alerts on these opportunities every day. People are making thousands of dollars every month, and to get you started, use code MAGIC for 35% off and a 7-day free trial. I guarantee you'll profit during the trial, and if you don't, cancel with one click, no questions asked. Don't leave money on the table. Go to oddsjam.com, use code MAGIC, and start making money the smart way. Alright, now back to the video. Boston's offense was flowing, and everything ran through Bird. On another design set, he curled around a screen and hit another soft floater in the lane. The release was quick, but never rushed. Jordan countered with a slick entry pass to Oakley from the low block, threading the ball past the defender to set up an easy bucket, but the Celtics answered immediately. Robert Parrish stepped out to set a high screen for Bird, and as expected, Bird made it count. One dribble into space and he drilled a pull-up jumper. Then came a brilliant overhead feed from Bird Parrish under the rim for a layup that had the garden buzzing. The Celtics weren't just scoring, they were passing with intent. Bird and Danny Ainge moved the ball back and forth with sharp interior passes that pulled the defense apart. The play ended with another Bird assist and a defense looking completely out of sync. Bird followed that with another no-look pass, this time to Jim Paxson cutting to the basket. Paxson was fouled on the finish, and Boston continued to slice up Chicago's interior. Just before the quarter ended, Bird grabbed an offensive rebound and calmly tipped it back in, closing the first with a reminder that he was doing a little bit of everything. Boston didn't just come out strong, they came out in complete control. Bird wasn't just scoring, he was running the show. And while Jordan had his moments, it was the Celtics who owned the rhythm from the start. The second quarter opened with Boston going right back to what worked. They ran a familiar floppy action for Larry Bird, bringing him off a screen into open space. This time, he floated toward the lane and dropped in a soft left-handed runner that barely touched the rim. Moments later, the Celtics ran the exact same action. The defender tried to cheat under the screen, hoping to cut off the lane early, but Bird saw it coming and stopped short for a jumper. It was clean, confident, and made to punish exactly that kind of gamble. On the other end, Michael Jordan made his presence felt. He exploded past his man with that signature first step and drew the defense in before dishing it to Horace Grant, who slammed it home with force. It was a textbook breakdown by Jordan, who had been patient through the opening quarter but was now starting to press the action. Bird answered right back. Coming off another screen, he left his defender trailing and took advantage of the delayed closeout. He calmly drove into a spot, gathered, and banked in a left-handed shot that looked routine but was anything but routine. The Celtics weren't changing much, and they didn't need to. Another floppy set gave Bird a catch-and-shoot opportunity just above the elbow, and with Scottie Pippen contesting, he still knocked it down in rhythm. Bird wasn't just getting to his spots, he was daring the Bulls to stop him. Jordan wasn't backing down either. Working from the triple threat position, he jab stepped hard, froze his defender, and rose up for a clean jumper that dropped straight through. He followed that up with a deep seal under the basket, where the Bulls found him in position, and he finished it with a powerful one-handed dunk that shook the rim. And just like that, he kept the pressure on. Next time down the court, Jordan brought the ball up, stopped at the free throw line, and drilled a pull-up jumper that never touched the rim. The back and forth between Bird and Jordan had shifted gears. This wasn't just execution anymore, it was personal. Bird was controlling the Celtics' tempo, running plays like clockwork, and knocking down every opportunity. Jordan was striking back, using explosiveness and touch to keep Chicago within reach. The chess match was on, and neither side was flinching. The second half began, and if anyone in the building thought Larry Bird might cool off, he quickly proved them wrong. Boston ran the same action they had been using all night, a down screen to free Bird, curling toward the top of the key, and once again, he hit the jumper with ease. That shot had become automatic, and the Bulls still had no answer. Chicago ran a smart set on the other end. Michael Jordan off the ball, set a screen that drew attention, then slipped it, cut back door, and took the pass in stride. He finished with a slick reverse layup, drew the foul, and converted the and one. It was a smooth veteran move from a player still only scratching the surface of his greatness. But again, the Celtics turned to their bread and butter. Bird came curling off a screen, and this time his defender tried to go over the top to take away the shot. Bird read it instantly, stepped back, and created just enough space to let it fly. The shot dropped, and he drew the foul in the process. The Celtics were making it look surgical. Jordan answered with a classic move of his own. He faced up, jab stepped twice, and rose into a clean jumper that dropped through without hesitation. Boston didn't change the script. Bird came off yet another down screen, squared up, and hit the same curling jumper again. The Bulls knew it was coming and still couldn't stop it. Then Boston caught Chicago slipping. Dennis Johnson kept his eyes on the floor while the defense focused on Bird. With perfect timing, Johnson zipped a pass through traffic, finding Bird under the basket for an easy 2. It was a quiet play, but a perfect example of how in sync the Celtics were. The Bulls finally got something going in transition. Jordan pushed the ball up the floor and found Scottie Pippen streaking ahead for a layup. It was a glimpse of the future, that dangerous connection between Jordan and Pippen that would eventually dominate the league. But even as Chicago tried to push back, Boston kept leaning on the same action. Bird curled around a screen once more, rose up, and hit the shot again, this time with contact. The whistle blew, the crowd erupted, and Bird walked to the line calmly as if none of it surprised him. Then Jordan reminded everyone why he was who he was. He attacked the lane going left, absorbed the contact, and finished with his offhand. For anyone who thought he couldn't go left, he just gave them an answer. Still, Bird wasn't done. He drilled another mid-range jumper for his 34th point of the night, and it was still only the third quarter. The Celtics kept the pressure on, and when the Bulls got lazy with an outlet pass, Bird jumped the lane, picked it off, and laid it in for 2 more. The Bulls tried to get the last word before the quarter ended. With only 4 seconds left on the clock, Jordan went coast to coast and pulled up at the 3-point line. He drilled a shot, but his foot was just over the line. 2 points, not 3. A great effort, but not enough to slow the storm that had already started to swallow them. The fourth quarter opened with a burst from the Bulls. Scottie Pippen stepped up defensively, getting a clean piece of Paxson's shot and sparking a fast break the other way. Michael Jordan was already gone, filling the lane and throwing down an easy dunk in transition. Then came a look not many people talk about, the Jordan and Oakley pick and roll. It wasn't flashy, but it was effective. Jordan drew the defense in and fed Oakley, who powered through for a strong finish at the rim. Just moments later, they ran it again. Same setup, same action, and once again, Oakley finished the play. The Bulls were picking up momentum and closing the gap fast. Boston needed a response, and Bird delivered. He pulled up in transition for a smooth mid-range jumper and knocked it down like it was routine. It stopped Chicago's run and reminded the crowd that this one wasn't over. Jordan came right back. He used a high screen, dribbled into a spot, and pulled up with confidence. The jumper was pure. Chicago kept pushing, but Bird had no intention of letting the game slip. On the next possession, he rose up over his defender like they weren't even there and dropped in a contested jumper. The whistle blew right after, and he headed to the line for the and one. It was another cold-blooded moment in a night full of them. Jordan answered with a flair of his own. He delivered a no-look behind the head pass while he drew 3 defenders in the paint that hit his teammate in stride. It was the kind of play that shows just how overlooked his passing instincts really were. Vision like that doesn't get enough credit. Then came what might have been his toughest shot of the night. Jordan curled off a screen, took a dribble to the right, and somehow dropped in the fadeaway completely off balance. The Bulls bench was on its feet. He wasn't done. Jordan took the ball the full length of the court, beat Dennis Johnson with a slick in and out move, and exploded for another dunk. It was vintage Jordan, refusing to quit, dragging his team forward even as the clock kept working against them. But that was the last real push from Chicago. The Celtics took control down the stretch, making just enough stops and knocking down the key buckets that sealed it. The final score was 126-119 in favor of Boston. Larry Bird walked off with 44 points, adding 10 rebounds and 7 assists. Jordan finished with 39 of his own, doing everything he could to keep the Bulls alive. Pippen chipped in with 17, a quiet but efficient effort. But on this night, in this building, it was Larry Bird who had the final word. He controlled the tempo, hit every big shot, and reminded everyone watching that he wasn't ready to hand anything over just yet. Jordan and Pippen came to Boston looking to make a statement, but Larry Bird gave them a masterclass instead. On that night, he didn't just beat them. He outthought them, outplayed them, and made sure they felt every single bucket. Before the dynasty began, they had to learn from the best, and Bird made sure that lesson stuck.